Marzanna, or Morana, is an ancient goddess associated with winter's death and rebirth of nature. In Slavic mythology and folklore, Morana played an important role and was portrayed as a pale goddess with long dark hair and a slim figure. She was the daughter of Lada and Svarog and was prominently worshipped by the Kievan Rus. But is Morana still worshipped today? What did her rites look like, and are they still performed today? As Morana is a Slavic goddess of winter and the underworld, many secrets are to be discovered in our new video of the Slavic Mythology series. Morana was initially viewed as a goddess of fertility and mother of all that is living. She resembled a positive side of the Great Mother archetype, just to later be shifted into an evil bringer of disease and old age. She became a goddess of long and cold winters that brought death, famine, and extreme temperatures of a deathly gaze. Thus, her arrival was marked with a great and troubling fear in the heart of Slavs who awaited her touch. Her departure, on the other hand, was celebrated with revelry and cheering, but more about that later in the video. It is worthy of note that in many ancient tales of Slavs, Morana confronted Perun and even joined Veles in his mischief and trickster proclivities. As she had a prevailing dark side, Morana wasn't easy to appease. Some authors state that only images of death and destruction appease her. These images were along the lines of rotten fruit, fallen leaves, dry flowers, and the end of lives. Morana's powers are great, as she controls over death and illness. Many folk spells against illness and bleedings called for her aid. Zima, meaning winter, is one of her forms, and thus she could freeze unwanted processes. Before we continue, consider liking and subscribing, as it really helps out in making quality content.
When it comes to the etymology of Marzanna's name, it is likely that it comes from the Proto-Indo-European root mar or mor, which means death. Some scholars have connected her with the Roman god of war Mars, while emphasizing that she was an agricultural deity originally. But did you know that Morana has a lot to do with sleep paralysis and nightmares? The root of her name, Mora, points to an obvious similarity with the English mare, and today we call it the nightmare. If you want to explore some more about this troubling creature that sits on a person's chest during sleep, check out the Henry Fuseli video that will pop up in the upper right corner. Our goddess Morana was believed to live in the Mirror Palace, which could only be reached by the Kalino Bridge. This bridge was believed to connect the two banks of a river with a bottomless depth, while the palace itself was protected by deceitful serpents. Some Slavic legends state that Baba Yaga was the creation of Morana, or that even Morana transformed into her. As it goes with her trickster nature, Morana was believed to transform into a girl called Marinka who tempted the hero Dobrynya. Among the Eastern Slavs, it was believed that Yarilo, when he was taken by Veles, met Morana at the very beginning of spring and they fell in love. Their love brought many fruits and wheat, but Yarilo stopped taking interest in her, and she decided to murder him, which brought autumn and then winter upon the world. Another story tells us of the love between Dashbok and Morana. When Dashbok replaced her with another lover, she decided to poison him in retribution. This angered Dashbok, the sun god, so much that he burned Morana and banished her to Nav, which was the underworld of Slavic mythology. This story represents the movement of the sun throughout the year. For the ancient Slavs, the sun descended into the underworld in the winter, only to rise again, snatching itself from the embrace of the Winter Queen.
All of this leads us to the Morana's opposite and necessary counterpart, that was the goddess of spring and rebirth. Viesna. The two couldn't exist without each other, as they provide a balance of the opposites. One goddess was worshipped for her beauty and bountiful appearance, and the other was feared for her darkness. Morana was also seen as the goddess of transformations, and thus of death and rebirth. When she returns to the sea, which is a symbol of the unconscious and underworld, she allows her mirror goddess Djevanna to restore the earth. Djevanna was believed to be the daughter of Morana, or even her other side, the benevolent side of the Great Mother, so to say. Now, let's turn our eye to the rituals accompanying our goddess and explore how Slavs chased the deathly gaze of winter and disease away. The tradition of burning or drowning an effigy of Marzanna to celebrate the end of winter is a folk custom that survives in the Czech Republic, Poland, Lithuania, and Slovakia. The custom of drowning the effigy of Marzanna derives from sacrificial rites. Its purpose was to ensure a good harvest in the upcoming year. Following the principles of sympathetic magic, as described by James Fraser, it was believed that burning an effigy representing the goddess of death would remove any result of her presence which brought about the coming of spring. Tom Galvin tells us more about this ritual, and it reads as the following. It concerns the drowning of Marzanna, a large figure of a woman made from various rags and bits of clothing, which is thrown into a river on the first day of the spring calendar. Along the way, she is dipped into every puddle and pond. Very often, she is burned along with herbs before being drowned, and a twin custom is to decorate a pine tree with flowers and colored baubles to be carried through the village by the girls. There are, of course, many superstitions associated with the ceremony. You can't touch Marzanna once she's in the water. You can't look back at her. And if you fall on your way home, you're in big trouble. One or a combination of any of these can bring the unusual dose of sickness and plague. End quote.
Kirlot, in his Dictionary of Symbols, tells us more about the effigy. Every effigy, as an image of a being, expresses the psychic aspect of that being. Hence, given Jung's contention that the magic and the psychic are practically the same thing, it becomes easy to understand the importance of effigies in magic. The burning of a person in effigy, an ancient practice that has still not been totally banished, does not then betoken merely the impotent spite of one who is unable to attack the real person, although this may well be a secondary consideration, but is an act against the image of that person, that is, against the impression that he has made in the minds of others, against his memory and his spiritual presence. One can explain keepsakes and portraits on a similar basis, for they are linked in the mind not so much with the real person they pertain to, as with the imago or projection of that person within us. The effigy, consequently, is a symbol of an image rather than of a being. End quote. As Morana was the goddess whose divinity was weaved in opposites that unified only to retract from each other again, let's conclude this video with a quote from Carl Jung. The union of opposites on a higher level of consciousness is not a rational thing, nor it is a matter of will. It is a process of psychic development that expresses itself in symbols. That's it for today's video. Thanks for rebuilding Olympus.